So,
Yep.
hey, we had a few Sooners receive some big time honors. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Danny Stutzman continues to receive all the honors. Walter Camp, first team All-American selection, an AP second team All-American selection. And, dude, I am not looking forward to watching a team without Danny Stutzman. If you have one big loss this offseason, it's Danny Stutzman. From a leadership perspective, from a production standpoint, can Oklahoma have really good linebackers come up behind him? Do I think Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis are going to be really good? Yeah, I do. But nobody has been as important to the defensive turnaround as Danny Stutzman.
No, 100% agree. And that man was the heart and soul of this defense for like the last 4 years since he's been here. The day he walked on campus, you felt his aura and his energy. And it's gonna be really weird playing next season without him. And that's the beauty of college football, is that you have these moments where you can enjoy your guy being there, and within about 3 to 5 years, they have to go and move up to the big boy ball. And it saddens you to see him go, but at the same time, you make sure that you enjoy the moments while they're there. He came back for a senior season that he did not have to, just because he wanted to, propel us in the SEC. Unfortunately, things didn't work out very well, but guess what he did? He solidified himself as an easy early draft pick in late day 1 or early day 2, no problem, because he was able to take that production from the Big 12 into the SEC and be just as dominant. I mean, that hit that he put on Jalen Milroe to start the game against Alabama, that set the tone for that game. And after that, you start to see, man, it's funny because I talked to a buddy of mine at that game, and he was like, man, I'm looking at Alabama. I was like, man, they look huge. There are some huge humans. I was like, yeah, I saw Jalen Milroe before in person. I went to a game out in Tuscaloosa because I wanted to see the third Saturday in October, and I went and saw it. And, man, I was like, yeah, he's a giant person. I was like, but don't worry. We got some big boys, too, that's going to, bring some pain. And then Danny got that first hit, and he was like, yep, you were right. And that's all we needed to see. So it feels good to see that players that Brent Venables was able to tutelage up and really help grow into leaders, get those awards. So feels good to see that we're getting All-American honors once again. And I expect more coming up.
Yeah, especially at defense, because listen, you're seeing now that you had good players on the defensive side of the ball. And Nick Bonito, Jalen Redmond, they're having really good seasons at the NFL level. It just never could really translate into great defense or elite defensive play as a team under Alex Grinch. You got good performances, solid production, but it never ascended into that really great status. Oklahoma's not quite there yet either, but you could see the trajectory happening. And for a guy like Danny Stutzman to go from being one of Alex Grinch's commitments, playing that 1 year as a true freshman, and then really stepping his game up every single year for the Sooners and really becoming the leader on the team.
Yes.
Especially after Dylan Gabriel left, like he was the leader for this team, making that transition into the SEC. And he stepped his game up even once again in 2024. So shout out to Danny Stutzman earning those postseason honors. Jaden Jackson was named to the SEC All-Freshman team. No surprise. The dude was so good this year. And the sky really is the limit for him. He had he just had a productive year, both as a run stuffer. He did provide a little bit of pressure as a pass rusher. Just getting going, man. As part of a really good defensive tackle rotation, he was productive, man. He had a really, really good year.
Yeah, he was, man. He's racking up the awards. He's racking up the recognition, and that's just beautiful what we've been When's the last time we were excited about a Oklahoma Sooner at the defensive line getting these type of awards, right? When's the last time we heard about that, guys getting really recognized like that? I mean, we've had them. We've had athletes that gone out there and figured that out on their own, but when you're able to be a nose guard or a defensive tackle on a really good defense, someone that's top 10 in defensive efficiency, one of the top pass rushing defenses in the country, or run stoppers. You get all of that from what this defense has done this year, and Jaden Jackson has been a big-time anchor in that. He's a force to be reckoned with. And some people will look at the statistics and be like, oh, well, he didn't put up a lot of sacks and numbers. It's okay. Go look at Jalen Carter for Georgia. He was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Go look at his numbers. Not impressive.
Right.
Because it's about the tape. It's all about the tape and the eye test and what you see, the production on the field as far as getting in the way, disruptive, causing issues, getting pressures, getting hurries, being in the way, forcing running backs to cut and change their direction because you can't, an immovable object. That's what you're looking for. And that's the beauty of it, is that you're getting that with a player like Jaden Jackson. So I'm stoked to see that he's here. I'm glad that him and David Stone are joining each other. Don't worry, Stone's going to get his too.
He's coming.
They play amazingly next to each other, and then Stone get his technique down because he's more of a rusher and he's more of a guy that's going to actually get to the quarterback. Jaden's job is to fill space and move dudes around, and that's what he's moving furniture. That's what you see out of a Jaden Jackson on the field, and I love seeing him emerge so quickly. That was one guy that we heard about in offseason that did not disappoint at all. He lived up to expectations and even exceeded them, if you want to be honest.
He did. I think I didn't have these expectations that he'd come in and be a day one contributor. Even with all of the spring ball buzz about Jaden Jackson, because there was a bunch, right? Everybody was talking about how quick he was moving, how big he was, how strong he was, all of that. And you never know how that's going to translate. Well, that buzz continued. It did not slow down.
Didn't stop.
Fall camp, he continued to be, noteworthy and buzzworthy. And that's even with adding a guy like Dominic Williams and the emergence of Grayson Halton and having a healthy Dejon Terry. He still was able to carve out a significant role. And that just goes to show the potential that he has is, even with these veterans around, Jaden Jackson earned a starting job out of camp and kept it. I mean, according to Pro Football Focus, he started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games for Oklahoma this year. And honestly was even more productive over the second half of the season as things went along. He had 9 pressures and 1, 4, 5, like all 9 of them came since the Texas game. He had 2 against Alabama. He had 3 against South Carolina. So he's continuing to develop as a pass rusher. But as you mentioned, man, his number one responsibility is to create gravity and draw offensive linemen to him, force them to double team him so that you're opening things up for your guys on the edge and R. Mason Thomas and Ethan Downs and that other defensive tackle. It's no coincidence that Grayson Halton had a big year as well with the emergence of Jaden Jackson and also the addition of Dominic Williams and Dejon. Like, that nose tackle spot was one of Oklahoma's best spots and deepest spots on the defense. And it just made everybody around them better. It made the linebacker group better because those offensive linemen couldn't get to the second level and attack those linebackers like they have in years past because you were solid, like literally not like solid as far as the, level of play. No, you were great, but it was just solid and stout because of all those guys. But Jaden Jackson was a big part of that. You asked the question, how long has it been since we were excited about a freshman defensive lineman? Gerald McCoy and probably Tommy Harris, right?
Yeah.
Like, those were maybe the last guys as true freshmen that really, really produced. And I took a lot of heat back in the early spring for mentioning that Jaden Jackson and David Stone could have those kind of impacts. And here we are after Jaden Jackson's first season earning all SEC honors. He's having that kind of an impact.
Funny how that happens, John, that we come in here and we tell you all that certain ones you got to keep your eyes on. Look, no one bats 1,000, so every single prediction we provide is not perfect, but we have told y'all to keep your eyes open on certain players, and one of them that we heard the buzz on, like you said, that never went down was Jaden Jackson. We said, hey, man, that dude's going to be something. Yep. Like, he was the best pickup in that class. Like, even with David Stone being a 5-star plus, Jaden Jackson was completely underrated. He was the dude that a lot of schools were going after for those particular reasons. They're like, nah, man, we're watching those two on the line together. David Stone is definitely a 5-star caliber guy. Jaden Jackson is a contributor to what David Stone does. And you're like, we'll see. John, he went out there and he got himself some All-American teams. What could you ask for?
Yeah. And David Stone even said, I'm as good as I am because of Jaden Jackson.
Exactly.
So, yeah, he was right. I was right. I've been wrong. I was wrong about Jackson Arnold, but here we are.
It happens
So
so far.
So far. But anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Locked On Sooners. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube as well. Follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Boomer
Sooner. I got all confused. He.